All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March 14th, 2025 meeting of the California Coastal Commission. I'd like to ask Ms. Miller to please call the roll.
Commissioner Bochco.
Here.
Commissioner Calfee.
Here.
Commissioner Harmon.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Lowenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Nuttall.
Here.
Commissioner Trimble Sanders.
Here.
Commissioner Uranga.
Presente.
Chair Cummings.
Presente.
You have a quorum.
All right. With that, I'll turn it to staff for the virtual meeting procedures.
Good morning. This Coastal Commission meeting is occurring both in person and through Zoom. This meeting is also being webcast and can be viewed online at cal-ban.org. If you have access to the internet and wish to watch or listen to the meeting only and not speak on an item, we recommend use the CalSpan website. Those who wish to address the Commission today can do so in person, through the Zoom platform, or by phone. The speaker request forms may be found on the Commission's webpage. Paper forms and a scannable QR code for paperless submittal are available on the Commission staff table just outside the meeting room. For those on Zoom, we have posted virtual hearing procedures on the Commission's agenda webpage, which is a guide on providing comments via Zoom or by phone. Members of the public speaking during general public comment may be given up to 2 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. Requests to speak during the general public comment period will not be accepted after 9 a.m. on each day of the meeting. In order to provide the opportunity for the broadest range of public participation, you may speak on a specific topic one time only each month. Those speaking on an agenda item that is not general public comment are typically allowed 2 to 3 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. We will accept a request to speak on an item up until the chair opens the hearing on that particular item. If you have access to the internet, please go to the Commission's webpage and click on the link to fill out a speaker request. If you do not have internet access or prefer to testify by phone, please call the Commission staff at 562-477-9089. Again, that number is 562-477-9089. Staff will provide you with a telephone call-in number and instructions for how to participate and provide testimony by phone. We will manage speakers coming in and out of the meeting through a meeting organizer. When it is your time to address the Commission, the organizer will invite you to turn on your video and microphone or provide instructions on how to unmute your phone. Chair Cummings, that concludes the virtual hearing procedures.
All right. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda changes. I'll turn it to staff to give us an update on agenda changes.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Cummings and Commissioners. I will now go over the changes to the agenda. First, item 8A, the City of Carpinteria LCP amendment for the housing element rezone is moved to consent. Item 9A, the Garden Street Hotel appeal out of the City of Santa Barbara is postponed. Item 9B, the Miramar Acquisition Company LLC appeal out of Santa Barbara County is postponed. Item 11A, the City of Long Beach LCP amendment for cannabis delivery only dispensaries is moved to consent. And item 13C, the CDP application by Side Hustle Holdings LLC is moved to consent. That concludes our changes to today's agenda. So that brings us to item 4, general public comment. And with that, I'll turn the mic back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. All right. And that moves us to item number 4, general public comment. I'll move it over to Chris. How many people do we have signed up today?
We have 18 people signed up.
Okay. If we can commence with public comment.
All right. For members of the public, I'll be announcing the names of the upcoming speakers and invite you to speak when it is your turn. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes during general public comment. In order to allow for live video testimony on Zoom, we will be bringing you in as panelists. As we bring you in, your Zoom will reload. This may take a moment. To speed up this process, we will bring several people in at a time, but please remain muted and keep your video off until we ask you to speak. After your time is up, you'll be moved back to attendee mode. For members of the public present in the room, I will call your names in the order that they appear on our sign-up list. When you hear your name, please line up behind the podium and announce yourself with your name when you approach to speak. Several helpful tips. There's a raise your hand function that will help us find you in the attendee list. If you're using a phone for audio, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. If you are participating by Zoom, you should see a button on your Zoom screen. If you have signed up to speak for this item and are able to do so, please raise your hand now. When it is your time to speak, we will invite you to unmute and turn on your camera. You can unmute yourself on a phone by dialing *6. And please remember to state your name for the record. So on our list, we have 2 people in person, Valerie Mishkin and then Lynn Dunn. And then after that, we'll move to our Zoom speakers. And then before you begin, please press the button on the bottom of the mic to turn it on. And there we go.
Hello? Okay, it's on. Good morning, Chairman Cummings and commissioners and staff. My name is Valerie Mishkin. I serve on the board of directors for Smart Coast California. As you've heard in previous meetings, we are a nonprofit working to advance practical science-based coastal adaptation solutions that address both the environment and the community needs of a changing coastline. I've been in Santa Cruz since 2004, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today in person. I also serve on the local government relations board of realtors and have been a participant in the nature-based solutions feasibility study for the city of Santa Cruz. I feel like I have a lot of big words today. First, I want to recognize the critical role of the Commission as California faces growing threats from sea level rise, coastal erosion, and storm impacts. While these challenges are urgent, we remain concerned that too often the voices of local communities and the need for flexible adaptation options are not fully incorporated into the Commission's decision making. As you begin your strategic planning efforts, we are hopeful that you will take the opportunity to revisit how the Commission engages with local governments and stakeholders. And Smart Coast California is ready to be a proactive partner in that work. This week, we hosted a virtual stakeholders meeting titled Navigating the Coastal Rebuild to discuss the Coastal Act, the governor's executive orders, and the real on-the-ground challenges and opportunities for rebuilding the coastal zone following a fire. We're committed to bringing a diverse voice and solutions into the broader statewide dialogue and welcome the chance to have discussions with you and your staff. In closing, Smart Coast California looks forward to engaging with you on current and future planning strategies that are supportive of California communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Lynn Dunn, and then our first 3 Zoom speakers will be Mary Jane Schramm, Susan Simon, and then Penny Aaliyah. Lynn Dunn.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Dunn, and I live here locally, essentially 2 miles from this hotel. And I'm a native Californian and been enjoying Santa Cruz for most of my life. I'm motivated to come here today, in particular, to give a shout out to two of the coastal staff, Ellie Oliver and Nolan Clark. We have had a issue with the view and on our block of seeing the ocean itself, and it took us 44 years with the help of the commission and the county and the city to get it resolved. It was resolved about 3 years ago. But as our former planning commissioner, Mike Goose, said, then the landscaping sets in. And of course, we got our view and the landscaping set in. Our local port commissioner and his dad have lived in that house since the 30s. But Ellie Oliver convinced us that she didn't care who was there. According to the laws and the rules, she would enforce, and she did. the landscaping came down. Yes, we have our view back. So I just want to shout out to your office, and you don't have the county people here to do that, but in this day of lawlessness, we have another complaint, and the neighbor right next door, as he was pouring all his cement on the beach and building up a wall, I said, "Hey, Chris, where's your permit?" "I don't have one." So there's an attitude. There's a real attitude, and I really applaud you with the work you've done on Martin's Beach, the work you've done in Aptos, and now the lawlessness is really coming forward. Mark Zuckerberg has moved into my neighborhood on 16th Avenue, and it will be another vacant home. We have folks from the CZU Vire and from Los Angeles that are up here looking for places to live. On my block alone, we have 5 B&Bs.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, we very much appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Moving on to our Zoom speakers, Mary Jane Schramm, Susan Simon, and then Penny Aaliyah. Mary Jane Schramm, you should be able to begin. We're bringing up your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mary Jane Schramm, appearing for the Marin Audubon Society to express our gratitude and unwavering support for the Coastal Commission. You've helped greatly in our mission to conserve and restore natural ecosystems, focusing on birds, other wildlife, and their habitats for the benefit of humanity and the Earth's biological diversity. Next slide, please. Amid the current assault on environmental policy nationally, it's clear that California is ground zero. We're aware of the move to dismantle this commission, despite Californians' bipartisan support for the Coastal Act. This threat is serious, not just bluster and bombast, and there is too much to be gained or lost on both sides. Next slide. Next slide, please. There's a deep divide between visions for our coast. For example, where we see hundreds of thousands of shorebirds thriving on beaches, in wetlands, and estuaries, others see prime beachfront real estate to develop as exclusive golf resorts and private enclaves for the privileged. Next slide. Where we see families exploring tide pools and experiencing the magical interface of land and sea, others see habitat-destroying coastal armoring to buffer against climate change impacts that a carbon-based energy agenda creates. Next slide. And where we see endangered whales feeding near shore, struggling to recover despite a warming ocean, others see oil platforms that increase greenhouse gases, a dump site for toxic waste, and a seafloor begging to be strip mined. Next slide. Commissioners, the Marin Audubon Society is urging legislators to defend your vital work. Please know we have your back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Susan Simon, followed by Penny Aaliyah, and then Cindy Abbott. Susan Simon.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Susan Simon, co-chair of the Embarcadero Coalition. I would like to speak today regarding the Port of San Diego Port Master Plan update, which is a total replacement of its current Port Master Plan. The Port Master Plan update has a number of substantive issues that the Commissioners should be made aware of. Some of these are 46% of the port's managed lands are not included in the PMPU. How can it be called a master plan when almost half of its area of responsibility is missing? Further, due to the omission of these lands, the environmental impact analysis was not comprehensive. It should disturb the Coastal Commissioners that even without all its land included, the environmental impact report found 60% of the environmental effects of the evaluated areas in the PMPU to be significant and unavoidable after mitigation. We believe that number to be closer to 80% since the port stated mitigation efforts were only during periods of construction. The port brushed off these findings, commenting they did not need to further mitigate due to the PMPU creating jobs. This is a complete disregard for state and local climate action plans and against PMPU inputs received by the port from these same governments. Last, physical development standards are not listed throughout the Embarcadero. There are no development standards for the South and Central Embarcaderos. Without detailed development standards, there are no rails guiding the bulk, scale, orientation, or height of future development. The port must set these standards with the public's input and not let them be set by developers. This is especially disturbing considering the port states in the PMPU that the central Embarcadero will stay the same as it is today, but it selected a company to redevelop the entire area in 2016. The port is not being truthful or transparent with the public or the Coastal Commission. I appreciate your time and interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to Penny Aaliyah, followed by Cindy Abbott, and then Shirley Weiss. Penny Aaliyah.
Good morning, Chair Cummings, commissioners, and staff. Penny Aaliyah speaking on behalf of our beloved coast and its vast treasure trove of natural resources. Over 50 years ago, the people of California worked very hard to bring the California Coastal Act to fruition. I've had the privilege and honor to work with this commission for nearly 30 years, but that could all come to an end because of the wannabes in Washington and Sacramento, and we all know what they want to be. There's a reason our precious coast needs the protection of this commission, but apparently those that I just mentioned wish to defund it, rein it in, or totally abolish it. Dr. Hucklebridge warned everyone in December that 2025 was going to be tough going. Well, I believe the expression is when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And this is what Peter Douglas taught me in his own very special way. So what are we going to do? When are we going to get going? What can I do? For now, all I can do is thank you for your work to protect and preserve our finite coastal resources. And I beg you to stand strong and call upon the activists that speak to you every month. You just heard from that wonderful panelist, we have your back. People all over this country are speaking out on what matters to them, and this matters to so many of us. Put us to work. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next is Cindy Abbott, Shirley Weiss, and then Karen Lair. Cindy Abbott.
Good morning, Chair Cummings and Coastal Commissioners. I'm Cindy Abbott of Pacifica. Foremost, I'd like to also share my deep gratitude to you and all associated with the California Coastal Commission. For more than 50 years, you followed the will of the people who voted for the Coastal Act. To quote Peter Douglas, if we want it to be there for our children, we have to keep fighting to protect it. In that way, the coast is never saved. It's always being saved. Those remarks made many years ago are still true and are also the reason I'm speaking out today. Soon, the City of Pacifica's updated LCLUP will be brought before you. While the plan has many positive aspects, there are significant policies included that have the potential to alter the entire California coastline, and that is the concept of Special Shoreline Resiliency Areas, or SSRAs. SSRAs are not a resiliency strategy. SSRAs are a carve-out of the coast. Statements by the City of Pacifica reflect how SSRAs will allow for intensified development behind these neighborhood-scale seawalls. Intensified new development, of which none has coastal-dependent use. SSRAs are so controversial in Pacifica that with all of the merits in the updated plan, the vote by City Council was 4-1, with one council member also specifically stating that they were only voting yes to move the plan forward to you. Instead of a long-term and visionary strategy that brings forward a thoughtful and complete vision for Pacifica's coastline, or one that moves future generations out of harm's way, the plan is to place more in hazardous areas, ensuring the need for perpetuating hard armoring. Please continue to stand strong, protecting the coast for all, and do not approve a plan that carves out sections of the beach. Say no to SSRAs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Shirley Weiss, Karen Lair, and then we had one more person that we found in person, Joanne Wolfeld, who will be after Karen Lair. Shirley Weiss.
Good morning. My name is Shirley Weiss. I am a longtime resident of Del Mar, California, a member of the Coalition for Safer Trains, and I have practiced law in California for over 40 years. Today, I address recent developments regarding realignment of the rail tracks off of the Del Mar Bluffs, the Sandag critical project. Before its February 28th meeting, Sandag's Board of Directors released its staff's recommendations to study 4 possible realignment options in the environmental impact report, as well as a misnamed no-build option. Alarmingly, 2 of these options propose expanding by double tracking or continuing the existing rail tracks on the fragile Delmar Bluffs, despite undeniable evidence of ongoing erosion and environmental degradation. Both of these approaches contradict the Coastal Act and threaten public safety. The Coastal Commission swiftly responded. In its February 27, 2025 letter, your chief environmental scientist unequivocally warned that increasing or maintaining tracks on the bluffs would violate conditions previously mandated by the Commission in approving Phase 5 of Sandag's stabilization efforts. The letter emphasized the additional armoring would harm the bluffs and double tracking, saying, quote, "We therefore strongly recommend that Sandag Board act to not move forward on this alternative for further consideration in the draft EIR." Instead, Sandag's board did just that. This situation is not without precedent. NCTD defied the Coastal Commission in 2022. The California Attorney General sued NCTD, and NCTD backed off and agreed to abide by Coastal Commission mandates. Please actively oppose attempt to further degrade our Delmar Bluffs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Karen Lair, followed by Joanne Wolfeld, and then Janet Rogers. Karen Lair.
Yes, good morning. Honorable Coastal Commission Chair, Commissioners, and staff. Thank you all thank you for all you do for the people of California and for the visitors to our amazing state. My name is Karen Lair. I'm a resident of Del Mar. I want to sincerely thank you for your letter submitted to Sandag dated February 27, 2025, reminding them that double tracking the bluffs is not a viable option, reminding them that in the June 2022 agreement on the project for bluff stabilization number 5, they committed to relocate the tracks and remove the seawalls. Thank you for speaking for the bluffs, as they cannot speak for themselves. We know that the easy option is to leave the tracks where they are, but this is not feasible with the continued erosion that is taking place. On a walk on the beach 3 days ago, I saw 2 new slide areas. While not major, they're a reminder that even with the stabilization work they're doing and have done, it continues to erode. I ask that you remind NCTD and Sandag that once the tracks are relocated to a new route, they will need to abandon the existing track as they have agreed to remove the seawalls, and this will mean that the track will cease to be a stable way to transport freight and military equipment. Contrary to what the CEO of NCTD said in his remarks at the Sandag board meeting, it makes no sense for our public tax money to support 2 rail lines in the same location. The one on the bluff will need to be removed, and with coordination, Sandag can make sure it happens. Another item, Sandag also agreed to provide public beach access as mitigation and to start the project within 36 months of the start of DMB number 5. DMB 5 started 12 months ago, and that leaves us just 24 months. To date, we have not seen any mention of the process beginning for that project, and part of the stipulation is that they obtain all required permits and agreements, and we know that can take some time. Again, thank you for your attention to these issues ongoing along this stretch of Los San Corridor. It's greatly appreciated, and I thank you for your letter pushing back on the study and the potential selection of a double track route along the bluffs.
Thank you. Next is Joanne Wolfeld, who is here in person. And then following that will be Janet Rogers and Noah Suarez Sykes.
Thank you very much, Coastal Commission, for letting us speak. I want to speak about the lithium iron storage facilities, the 3 proposed for Santa Cruz County. I'm very concerned because these current lithium ion batteries are very thermal. They catch on fire, which there have been 5 fires at the Vistra storage facility in Moss Landing. Our county, Santa Cruz County, the south side borders Moss Landing, and many people in our county have been affected, and companion animals in that area, farm animals. Also, 70% of our agriculture comes from the farms over there between Watsonville to Carmel, And the heavy metals, I've worked in the health field for many decades. Manganese, lithium, and cobalt. They cross the blood-brain barrier and get into our brains and cause, severe brain problems, inflammation at the minimum. We're concerned that these heavy metals have gotten into the farms, have gotten into the bay there, the Monterey Bay, the fisheries. And this is not a healthy green technology. There are better batteries that have come online, MIT and the flow batteries. These are not thermal in nature. And I highly recommend that you look into flow batteries and the MIT battery. Also, the 3 sites that are proposed here in our county are on 90 Minto. It's all agricultural. It was an apple orchard, and the uncle in trust gave it to his nephew. And it's a heritage property. So it seems to me it should be like for like. And he's leasing this to the battery company, lithium-ion battery company, to put that very dangerous technology on an agricultural site, which surrounds other agricultural sites.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, and Aptos High School, the kids, and Dominican Hospital, the patients. That's where the other 2 are planned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving back to Zoom now, Janet Rogers, followed by Noah Suarez Sykes, and then someone who signed up as just Miss Johnson. Janet Rogers.
I'm Janet Rogers, co-chair of the Embarcadero Coalition. Next slide. San Diego's 2 foreign trade zones. Next slide. Oh, next slide. San Diego's 2 foreign trade zones at the 10th Street Terminal both have operating agreements which identify product and location as required by the federal government. San Diego and Marine Group Boat Works say they created an FTC in downtown on port-managed land to sell used megalots. The port says it doesn't have anything to do with this new FTC. There are no operating agreements, and coastal staff says this area is zoned for recreational berthing, not boat sales. What happens to the scenic views? Next slide. Marine Group says the 12-slip marina downtown. Next slide, please. The can we get the next slide? There. Thanks. Marine Group says the 12-slip Marina Group downtown is the only dedicated FTZ for yachts in California. What about recreational berthing? Are they creating new slips? Next slide. Is the port doing what it pleases? Ignoring zoning? No operating agreement for foreign trade zones? Are there big dollars for the port and a sweetheart deal? Port keeps removing scenic views. A 12-foot fence already blocks views. Will it expand? Next slide. My second concern is public access and environmental justice. The public's still being robbed of public access. Next slide. Last November, I presented several locations where legal public access is denied. That hasn't changed. Where are our 108 seats at Portside Pier? The restaurant only allows public seating if it doesn't need them. Are coastal permits optional now? Next slide. We don't have public access at Lanefield hotels or the amenities committed to in the Port Master Plan 25 years ago. Loss of public space is particularly bad for lower-income EJ populations. Where do they go that doesn't cost a fortune? My last slide, because we're running a little late. The port continues to deny legally public access to the detriment of all Californians, but especially low-income communities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Noah Suarez Sykes, Chantel Johnson, and then Susie Whitelaw.
All righty. Good morning, Coastal Commissioners. My name is Noah Sykes, and I'm an organizer for Better Neighbors LA, a coalition of hosts, tenants, housing activists, and community members who conduct data analysis and research on the short-term rental industry. We seek to regulate short-term rentals to preserve long-term housing. It's good to see you all again. We support true home sharing and hosted-only rentals as the best way to balance affordable public access for coastal visitors and affordable housing needs for residents in the coastal zone. I'm here today to speak on general public comment about the issue of short-term rentals. Unhosted short-term rentals, which are whole home rentals without a host living on site, have consistently been an issue in the coastal zone and continue to grow significantly due to weak regulations. At the last commission meeting, you heard various speakers articulate the idea that STRs are a way to provide affordable access to the coast, but the numbers don't bear this out. In Santa Cruz, the average nightly rate in the coastal zone for one person at a short-term rental was $227 a night, which is 58% higher than the cap for what constitutes low-cost coastal accommodation. STRs, unlike other forms of overnight accommodation like hotels or campgrounds, that sort of thing, are also by their nature transitory accommodations. Hosts can block off time, decline bookings, make their housings unavailable for booking, take their listing off the market, etc. STRs are therefore a less good solution to the deep-rooted issue of limited coastal access than other solutions that are available. Prioritizing these STRs also presents significant trade-offs. STRs increase the cost of housing, as we've seen in Los Angeles, which faces an $810 a year average rent increase thanks to the proliferation of STRs. This increase in the cost of housing is likely especially acute in the coastal zone, where STRs tend to make up a higher percentage of total housing units. Their numbers keep growing. In Long Beach, unhosted short-term rentals have grown 24% within the coastal zone in just 1 year, from February 2023 to February 2024. With big ticket events like the Olympics coming to LA County, there's significant risk that housing that coastal residents depend on could be converted into STRs. That's my time then, looks like. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Chantel Johnson, Susie Whitelaw, and then Diana Sandoval. Chantel Johnson.
Good morning, commission members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am actually speaking on an agenda item that we were inadvertently overlooked for on Thursday, March 13th, which was titled Notice of Proposed Immaterial Permit Amendments. I am actually a tenant in the Fountain Park Apartments in the Playa Vista community, which is in a level 3 methane concentration zone requiring the strictest and most extensive methane gas mitigation requirements, because methane is a highly explosive gas which will ignite in concentrations between 5% and 15%. The current methane mitigation system does not work, and it fails to comply with the required Playa Vista methane prevention, detection, and monitoring program. The gas leaks at Playa Vista were determined to transport carcinogenic and toxic gases, including BTEX chemicals and hydrogen sulfide. In the past 2 decades that the Playa Vista development has existed, residents has never been made aware of these dangerous gases. Because of this, there is current, active, and ongoing litigation regarding these dangers to the thousands of residents in the Fountain Park and Playa Vista community. Residents have died here, and so many others are sick and have no knowledge as to why. Now, these SoCal reservoir gas leakages heighten the threat of added gases moving up and dipping into Playa Vista with these 2 wells, the Del Rey 4 and the Del Rey 9. Residents in the Fountain Park and Playa Vista community are not aware of these added dangers, and the California Coastal Commission owes a duty to the thousands of lives at risk to notify the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Susie Whitelaw, followed by Diana Sandoval, and then Mandy Sackett. Susie Whitelaw. And then you should be able to turn on your camera right now. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Susie Whitelaw with Save Our Beaches San Clemente. And I want to start off by just saying how much I know the commission is under a lot of fire these days, a lot of political pressure. And I wanted to let you know that Save Our Beaches San Clemente is you have our full support. Your institution is a really good example of good governance. You are also responsive and transparent, extremely knowledgeable, expertise, and professional. From all of you commissioners to Dr. Huckleberry and all of her staff, and even down to the people just running the program today. And I want to say thank you for all that you are doing. I'd also like to point out a Senate bill that I think is going to be, if it passes, would create a lot of difficulty for the Coastal Commission and for a coastline. This is Senate Bill 741, proposed by Senator Blakespear. It would allow, amongst other things, to have special districts, the ability to self-declare an emergency, and then obviously be able to put on as much armoring on the coast as they want. We believe that this bill is primarily intended to facilitate the armoring of San Clemente's coastline, being proposed by the Orange County Transportation Authority. And I would like to just warn everyone, other environmental groups that are listening here that care about our coastline, to please join Save Our Beaches and Surfrider Foundation in opposing this legislation. And once again, thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you. Next, Diana Sandoval, Mandy Sackett, and then Patricia McPherson. Diana Sandoval.
Do you have a PDF I shared?
We didn't receive a PDF from you. Sorry, we don't have a presentation for you.
Okay, that's fine. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Diana Sandoval, and I'm here to expose a troubling reality. The California Coastal Commission claims to protect their coast, but in my case, it has refused to enforce the Coastal Act, even after its own staff determined that a substantial issue existed. In Santa Barbara County, illegal development is not just ignored, it is enabled. The county allows construction unlawfully on neighboring properties in environmentally sensitive habitat areas, creeks, high flood zones without CEQA review, and in violation of the Coastal Act. A prime example is a residential bridge that had been abandoned since 2006, 2007, as documented in several county permits the county withheld from me, raising serious doubts about whether they were ever shared with the Ventura office, or perhaps Steve Hudson was aware. Instead of enforcing the law, the county unlawfully exempted this dismantled and abandoned bridge and rezoned it as a commercial bridge through a same-day over-the-counter building permit. When I appealed, the commission accepted it, confirming it fell within your jurisdiction and granting you enforcement authority. Yet without my consent, you withdrew my appeal simply because the county rescinded its unlawful exemption, denying me my due process. 5 months later, the illegal bridge still stands. The property owner has yet to apply for a coastal development permit. The commission has issued no enforcement action against this illegal development, and the county is now retaliating against me to remove my lawful fence that prevents the use of the unlawful bridge. Today is day 14, $4,400 of retaliatory fines for the lawful fence by Santa Barbara County. And why hasn't the property owner applied for a coastal development permit? Because they lack the required proof of legal interest in the property, something they're now suing me over to establish. The commission has and had still the power to issue a notice of violation and a restoration order. Instead, it did nothing. The result? The taxpayers are now footing the bill for costly litigation while illegal development continues unchecked. So I ask the commission, do you truly care about protecting California coast, or is enforcement reserved only for those without political influence? If the commission cannot or will not enforce a coastal act, what message does that send for developers, local governments, and the public? It's time for the commission to prove it stands for coastal protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mandy Sackett, Patricia McPherson, and then Mandy Davis. Go ahead, Mandy.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Mandy Sackett on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation to urge you to reject the City of Pacifica's proposed LCP update, which will be before you likely this May. This plan would lock in shoreline armoring along the majority of the 6-mile coastline, sacrificing beaches, waves, and public access in the process, and it's a clear step backwards in the coastal resilience. This update formalizes neighborhood scale seawalls at Rockaway Beach and Sharp Park, allowing new development and redevelopment to depend on shoreline armoring. It will incentivize development in a hazardous area, even in areas where there are groundwater rise risks. And this isn't just bad precedent, it's illegal and maladaptive to rising seas. The proposed coastal access program in the LCP attempts to paper over these impacts. It just sort of kicks the can down the road for mitigation. And the truth is, we can't mitigate our way out of this. The Coastal Act doesn't allow it because no amount of mitigation can replace lost beaches or public trust lands. This plan is not just a plan for resilience, but it's more of a short-term approach to armoring in place. It's the status quo. There's no vision. If you all don't push local governments to come up with plans that actually protect the coast itself, then who will? The neighborhood scale seawalls are also deeply divisive. The city is facing growing pressure from residents who see the neighborhood scale seawalls as entitlements, and they're demanding taxpayer-funded armoring for their own neighborhoods too. This is a dangerous and unsustainable cycle, and one that we've seen before. Several years ago, we faced a similar proposal in Santa Cruz County. It was plainly inconsistent with the Coastal Act, and this commission rightly denied it. This is no different. The Coastal Commission's role is to protect the coast for everyone and not just enshrine these policies that prioritize walling off our coast over our coast itself. So we really urge you to apply that mission. Pacifica needs a plan that adapts to climate change, not locks in outdated strategies. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia McPherson, Mandy Davis, and then we have a couple names that we aren't able to find. I'll call those in a bit. Patricia McPherson. Patricia, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Steve, I'm unmuted.
You were briefly unmuted.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, commissioners, and I would like to say thank you also, and ditto with Marin Audubon, Penny Alita's statement to you, Cindy Abbott with Pacifica, Shirley Weiss with Del Mar, and also Surfrider who just spoke. I support those comments very much. Yesterday, I too was not able to speak on the item for Delray 4, Delray 9, and I submitted an email to staff. So now today I'm thanking staff for setting up a meeting so that we can discuss this. Also backing up to Chantel Johnson's comments today, I'd like to remind commissioners that there is the CCST report, which is a legislative report discussing the shutdown and supporting the shutdown of SoCal Gas Playa del Rey, as is the city of Los Angeles also supporting the shutdown due to leakage of the facility itself and problems that have been inherent due to its age and numerous other leakage issues. I also remind you that in 2010, CalGEM itself, Dogger then, shut down the reservoir for operations for about a year due to reservoir gas leakage to the surface. Grassroots Coalition put in a Public Record Act request to CalGEM that they have not been responsive to key questions. I do have the communications file with the Coastal Commission and am well aware that key questions were not asked, such as the what isotopic evaluation was done on the gas leakage, where was the gas leakage within the well. All of this is very important because, as Chantel said, this gas moves up dip right into the Playa Vista site. It also moves into the freshwater marsh area, to which this body has 5-91-463. So thank you very much, and you'll be hearing more about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mandy Davis. Mandy, you should be able to unmute now. And I see that your camera's on. Mandy, there, you were briefly unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning. This is important for me to speak to you guys today. I'm on vacation in Tucson, and what I wanted to address is something that has happened in the past that will be ongoing, and it has to do with offshore wind. It's a sign of a responsible adult to be able to look at new information, or maybe information that had not been, present at the time that you make a decision, and to be able to change those decisions accordingly. It's the only responsible thing to do as a human individual and as a group. And that is what I'm asking you to do today. As relates to the Atlas Wind Nearshore permit that you have issued, you issued that permit without the information following. And that information is that both of the landing sites for the electrical cables are not legal sites. One is a land conservancy, which is Dog Beach, right outside, in between Morro Bay and Cayucas. And the other, it has already been determined to be unfeasible, but it would be the Diablo Canyon site, which is a marine protected area. So you issued that permit for surveying for areas that are illegal to be able to do the landings. So I would ask that you would look at that permit, that you would rescind it until the applicant gives you actually a legal landing site, that it would be, it would be a logical thing to do their surveying. But what I would like to also ask you to do is take a look at the species that these near shore surveys are going to affect, the otters and many of the endangered species, because your staff has not done that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And then there were two names that we weren't able to find in our Zoom meeting. If I call your name, please raise your hand. Sage Maxwell, Richard James. Sage Maxwell and Richard James. If you're on a phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. I'll wait a second for any raised hands. And Sage Maxwell or Richard James. All right, I'm seeing no hands raised. Chair Cummings.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for all the members of the public who spoke to us today. With that, we'll move on from general public comment to our consent calendar. I'll turn it back to staff to present this item.
Thank you. And the next item is item 5, the consent calendar for all the districts on the agenda today. There are 3 items on the consent calendar, and staff is not aware of any opposition to these matters. The applicants are in agreement with the recommendations, and I would like to note that one of the items being reported today, item 5A, is for the addition of 3 new accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, to an existing 12-unit apartment building. And this project is an example of how your staff continues to work to expedite new ADU and housing projects. Although staff is asking this project be approved as part of the consent calendar today, I would like to highlight that this project initially raised issues relative to impacts to public access and the loss of parking for the existing residential units on site, as the project involved the conversion of an existing 4 conventional space or 8 tandem space garage into the 3 new ADUs. However, our staff was able to work with the applicant to develop a compromise solution and revise the project to deed restrict the 3 new ADU units as income restricted affordable rental units for moderate income households. And that's as defined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's land use, income, and rent schedule. And those restrictions will remain for the life of the approved development. In addition, we were able to work with the applicant to ensure that 2 new on-street parking spaces would be created by requiring the closure of the existing curb cuts on site. With those changes, our staff believes that project provides for a reasonable compromise that will minimize the loss of parking associated with the project while still complying with the provisions of the city's certified LUP, which allows for reduced parking standards for affordable residential units. In closing, staff is recommending the commission vote and approve the consent calendar. I am available for questions.
All right, are there any members of the public signed up to speak on any of these items?
There are no speakers.
Okay, bring it back to the commission. Are there any commissioners?
Move the consent calendar. I was going to move. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Naldov, second by Commissioner Hart. I just want to express my appreciation for the deed restrictions on these units, keeping them within moderate and maybe even below, moderate and lower income levels. And with that, I'll turn it to Ms. Miller for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nuttall.
Aye.
Nuttall, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Chair Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
That's great. All right, let's move on to item number 6, consent calendar. Items removed from the regular calendar, and I'll turn it back to staff for a presentation on this item.
Thank you. And item 6 is for applications being moved from regular to the consent calendar today for all the districts on the agenda. As mentioned during the agenda changes this morning, there are 3 items that we're recommending be moved to consent, and those are item 8A, the City of Carpinteria LCP amendment for the housing element rezone. Item 11A, City of Long Beach LCP amendment for cannabis delivery only dispensaries. And item 13C, the Side Hustle Holdings LLC CDP application for a single family residence. In closing, we're not aware of any opposition to the items being moved to the consent calendar, and we're recommending that the commission vote and approve this item. Staff is available for questions.
All right, are there any members of the public signed to speak on this item?
There are no people who wish to speak. There are 3 available for questions.
Any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, so I have a motion by Lowenberg, second by Bochco to move the consent calendar items removed from the regular agenda. Turn to Ms. Miller for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nuttall.
Aye.
Nuttall, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Chair Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
Okay, with that moves us on to item number 7, South Central Coast District Deputy Director's Report. I'll turn to staff for a presentation on this item.
Thank you. And item 7 is the Deputy Director's Report for the South Central Coast District, which this month only includes 1 permit waiver. However, staff did receive 1 email at the end of the day yesterday from Robert and Jan Bruner, nearby neighbors to the project, in opposition to that waiver. The waiver is for a project by Caltrans for construction of a public access path over a revetment located in the Muscle Shoals community in Ventura County. The access improvements are a requirement of a condition of approval of an emergency coastal development permit issued in 2005. And that emergency permit was for the construction of the rock revetment, and the stairway was necessary to maintain the previously existing public access on site. Now, the opponents are asserting that improvements of the public access way would result in increased visitation and damage to local tide pools, overuse of the road for parking that might impact residents, that public access to the beach should not be allowed as there is not a public restroom or existing trash management on site, and that public access to this location may not be necessary anyway due to rising sea levels. In response, staff would note that this waiver is simply a reauthorization of a previously approved CDP by the commission, and that was acted upon by the commission in 2022. But unfortunately, that CDP inadvertently expired, and Caltrans resubmitted this application for essentially the same project. The issues raised in the neighbor's email were fully evaluated and addressed by the commission in its approval of the original coastal permit in our February 2022 meeting. And I would note that all the special conditions from the commission's original CDP have been fully incorporated into the current proposal, including the provision of signage notifying the public to respect the sensitivity of the tide pools on site. The executive director has determined there are no changed circumstances affecting the project's compliance with the Coastal Act, and thus we continue to recommend that this matter be approved as a waiver today. Thus, we are asking whether 3 or more commissioners object to any of the items in the deputy director's report. Staff is available for questions.
Thanks so much. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak on this item?
There are no people who wish to speak, but we do have 2 people from Caltrans on Zoom and available for questions.
Okay. Are there 3 or more commissioners who object to the staff recommendation? Seeing none, commission concurs. With that, we'll move on to item number 10, Deputy Director's Report for Los Angeles County. I'll turn it back to staff for a presentation on this item.
Thank you. And item 10, the Deputy Director's report for the South Coast District this month includes 5 waivers. We're not aware of any opposition to any of those items being reported, and we're asking whether 3 or more commissioners object to any of the items in the Deputy Director's report. I am available for questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak on this item?
There are no speakers.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none, do 3 or more commissioners object to the staff recommendation? Seeing none, commission concurs. Moving on, this brings us to item 12A, new appeals, appeal number A-5-SNP-24-0027, KISS San Pedro, and I'll turn it to staff for a presentation on this item.
Thank you. And I would just note that next up, we do have a combined presentation by item 12A, 12B, 13A, and 13B. Those are the applications called KISS and the ACS Investments LLC. These items will be presented by Vincent Lee, a coastal program analyst in our South Coast District. And if we could pull up the PowerPoint, please, and then take it away.
All right, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Next items. Items 12A, 12B, 13A, and 13B are a combined hearing for the appeals of 2 coastal development permit applications approved by the City of LA for the single-family residence projects on 2 adjacent hillside lots in San Pedro and for the de novo and related dual CDPs. The applicants are Frank Kiss for items 12A and 13A at 1482 Hamilton Avenue, and ACS Investments LLC for items 12B and 13B at 1486 Hamilton Avenue. The appellant for both projects is F. Scott Duncan. Slide, please. The subject sites, 1482 and 1486 Hamilton Avenue, as shown in this slide, are each approximately 6,000 square feet adjacent vacant hillside lots in San Pedro, located approximately 1,300 feet inland of the ocean in a dual permit jurisdiction area of the City of Los Angeles. The lots have a land use designation of low density residential by the certified San Pedro land use plan. For 1482 Hamilton, the city approved project is for construction of a new 2-story, 26 feet high, 1885 square feet single family residence with basement, a 2-car garage, a pool, and 1,150 cubic yards of grading. For 1486 Hamilton, the city approved project is for construction of a 2-story, 26 feet high, 2,450 square feet single family residence with a basement, a 2-car garage, and 1,230 cubic yards of grading. The 2 projects also include construction of a 160 feet long, 20 feet wide private street requiring approximately 500 cubic yards of grading, and would be located along the western edge of the properties and the southern neighboring property at 1478 Hamilton Avenue, over which the applicants hold an easement for ingress and egress. The Commission's standard of review for the projects is Chapter 3 Policies of the Coastal Act, and their certified San Pedro LUP is advisory in nature and provides guidance. Next slide. The appellant contends the city failed to address the geologic stability of the site and that the project is inconsistent with the required setback and height limits pursuant to the requirements of the city's certified land use plan. Specifically, the appellant contends that the city's finding did not address the stability of the hillside and what the appellant believes is an unstable landslide area, inconsistent with Section 30253 of the Coastal Act. The appellant did not provide any evidence regarding the contended slope instability. Although the city records for both projects included soils report approval letters issued by the City Department of Building and Safety, which found the applicant's geotechnical reports as acceptable, the city's approval did not include any findings related to whether the project was designed and sited to assure stability and structural integrity of the new single-family residences. Thus, staff recommends that the Commission find the appeal does raise a substantial issue with respect to the lack of findings in the city-approved project's consistency with Section 30253 of the Coastal Act related to geologic hazards. Slide, please. The appellant further contends that the city's approval did not conform to the development standards specified in the certified LUP, as it did not verify the plan measurements for calculations of projects' required setbacks and height limits as required by the certified LUP. The appellant did not provide any details as to what plan measurements were flawed in the city's approval. Staff would note that the certified LUP does not specify any setback requirement for an inland residential development, and the city record consistently found the structure heights for both projects to be 26 feet. However, the city approved plans for 1486 Hamilton did not contain a topographic survey of the highest and lowest existing natural grade at the proposed building perimeters, which is the method required by the LUP policy as shown in this slide. The city approved plans for 1482 Hamilton did contain such topographic survey and correctly measured the structure heights pursuant to the method. Therefore, it is not clear from the city's record to determine whether the measured structure height for 1486 Hamilton is consistent with the certified LUP height requirements. Slide, please. The appellant further contends that the city's approval included habitable rooms on the garage level, which is inconsistent with the certified San Pedro LUP policy as shown in the previous slide. The city approved plans did include habitable rooms on the garage levels as shown in this slide, with the habitable rooms highlighted in red. Thus, Commission staff recommends that the Commission find that the appeal does raise a substantial issue with respect to the project's consistency with Section 30251 of the Coastal Act and the LUP policies related to development standards. Slide, please. Therefore, on balance, staff recommends that the Commission determine that a substantial issue exists with respect to the grounds on which the appeals has been filed because the two projects as approved by the City of Los Angeles have not been adequately reviewed for consistency with Chapter 3 of the Coastal Act and the certified LUP policies. Unless 3 or more commissioners wish to hold a hearing on the substantial issue determination, substantial issue will be deemed to exist for the two appeals, and we will move on to the Commission's de novo actions and related dual CDP applications for these matters.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. So I guess at this point in time, do 3 or more commissioners want to hold a hearing on this item? Seeing none, substantial issues found, and we'll have a discussion on this at a later date. Oh, today? Oh, no, de novo. Okay, great. So then we'll move on to the de novo hearing at this point in time.
If we can have the slide up again, please. Slide 7. Okay, next slide, please. Slide 7. All right, and then we'll now move on to the dual and de novo CDP applications for the project. So the primary Coastal Act issues raised by the projects are their consistency with policies related to coastal hazards, community character and visual resources, and the development standards. As shown on this slide, showing an aerial photograph of the two subject parcels, the project sites are located on vacant inland hillside lots and are not subject to direct marine erosion. The sites are not located in an area of non-geologic hazards, including landslide. Moreover, although the city failed to adequately address this issue in their findings for the approved project, the Commission staff has confirmed that the City Department of Building and Safety has reviewed both of the applicants' geotechnical reports and issued soils report approval letters, finding the reference reports as acceptable. And also, given the somewhat outdated nature of the previous reports, the applicants also submitted an updated geotechnical report and an acceptance letter concluding the projects are geotechnically feasible as of today's geologic settings. Commission staff geologist Philip Johnson has independently reviewed the aforementioned materials also, along with the proposed grading plans for the projects, and concluded that there are no obvious geologic hazard concerns for the projects. Next slide. In order to memorialize city's approval, staff recommends Special Condition 2, which recognizes the Commission's action does not affect local conditions imposed by the city pursuant to an authority other than the Coastal Act. Staff also recommends Special Condition 3, which requires the applicant to undertake development in conformance with the geologic recommendations approved by the city. As conditions conform with the geotechnical recommendations, staff believes that the project can be found consistent with the coastal hazard policies and the certified OEP. Next slide, please. The subject sites are located approximately 1,300 feet inland of the ocean, where no direct public views to the ocean or other significant visual resources are available. The project sites are located in a neighborhood that is developed with residential structures that are 1 to 2 stories in height, and some of those structures feature semi-subterranean garages similar to the proposed project. In this case, the proposed developments with 2 stories and a semi-subterranean garage are not out of character with the area, and therefore staff believes that the proposed projects would be visually compatible with the character of the surrounding area and would not impact visual resources. Next slide. With regard to development standards, consistent with the previously mentioned LUP policy, the proposed single-family residences must observe the certified LUP height limit of 26 feet as measured from average existing natural grade, and which prohibits habitable rooms in the designated basement garage level. Therefore, staff recommends special condition 1, which requires the applicants to submit revised final plans, removing the habitable rooms on the basement garage level. And for 1486 Hamilton only, special condition 1 additionally requires the revised plans to include a topographic survey identifying the elevation of average existing natural grade consistent with the LUP policy, and that the plans show the overall height of the structure does not exceed 26 feet, which is measured from the average existing natural grade. The applicant has indicated that they are in agreement with the special conditions. Next slide. Staff would note that the Commission has received 1 public comment for each project from Mark and Desiree Chavez in opposition to staff's recommendation, raising issues such as impacts to visual resource, geologic instability, habitat, and property value. The comments did not raise any new substantial issues that aren't already addressed in the staff reports. In closing, staff believes that these projects, as conditioned, are consistent with Chapter 3 policies of the Coastal Act and the provisions of the city-certified San Pedro land use plan, and thus staff recommends that the Commission approve the de novo and dual permits of the 2 proposals as conditioned. And because there are 2 separate projects, each with both a de novo and dual CDP applications before us today, there are 4 separate motions that can be found on pages 14 and 15 of each of the 2 staff reports to accomplish staff recommendation. And this concludes staff presentation, and we are available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lee. I'll open it up, the appellants.
Just ask for ex partes first, please.
Oh, yeah, are there any ex partes on this item? Seeing none, open up to the appellants, or no?
No, since substantial issue has been found, the applicant goes first, and then everyone else is just a member of the public.
Okay, great, so we'll open up to the applicant.
And then we have 1 person on Zoom, Luis de Moraes. We're moving you in as a panelist right now. They're listed as an architect and with the applicant. And then we had 1 other person that signed up to speak, Kevin Ramsey, also with the applicant, but we're unable to find them in the Zoom meeting. Kevin Ramsey, if you're in the Zoom meeting, please raise your hand. And then Luis de Moraes, we see you. You can unmute yourself.
Good morning, Coastal Commission. Thank you for taking the time to hear our project this morning. First, I wanted to thank staff, Vince and Danny, for the hard work and very detailed staff report. A lot of time and effort was put into this, and a lot of issues that were brought up were addressed in a lot of detail. It's been a long time. This project has come around a few years ago, and I believe was approved with another design, but that was not executed. Wanted to state that my client, I'm the architect, Luis de Moraes, and wanted to state that my client and I agree with the staff's recommendations, and wanted to make myself available for questions, along with our soils engineer, Keith Tucker, over to my left. for any questions related to stability. Wanted to also perhaps remind you that a letter response written by Keith Tucker to the appeal stating that no concerns of stability has been provided, and it should be part of your staff report. We hope we have addressed all the neighbors' concerns and staff, and we hope to obtain your support today. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we are seeing one hand raised. We're going to allow you to speak under the name Ellen Love. Is this Kevin Ramsey? Please unmute yourself and state your name. The user under the name Ellen Love.
Yeah, it's under Ellen Love, but it's Kevin Ramsey.
Okay, go ahead.
So ditto what Luis said. Thank you guys. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate it. We've been working on this for a long time. We agree with the staff recommendations and look forward to getting this project done.
All right, thank you.
That concludes comments.
Yes, there are no other speakers.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Nalo.
I just had the question about, I understand the consistency with the development standards with this habitable room, but I wonder if that's something that we could look at in the future, because it seems like that's an opportunity for an ADU in that in those kind of neighborhoods. So that it doesn't change the recommendation here, but it seems like that is something going forward that we might want to encourage the local government to revisit, so to allow for, make it easier to do ADUs in neighborhoods like this.
And through the chair, I can respond on behalf of staff that we are encouraging the city to do just that. That would require an update to the city's San Pedro land use plan. And we have looked at this issue. We certainly have no objection to having habitable spaces in the downstairs portion of these structures. It all seemed to be tied to the city's height requirements. That's what this was all about. So we'll explore that option with the city, and we will encourage the city to update their land use plan.
Thanks. I think that is just kind of a good example of how local governments need to work with the commission if we're going to densify, get more housing opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments?
Happy to
Commissioner
make
Hart.
a motion if you're prepared. I think it might be a little more complicated than I'm thinking, but I'll start with the application 5-24-0054. Is that correct? So I'll move the commission approve coastal development permit application number 5-24-0054 pursuant to the staff recommendation, asking for a yes vote.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Hart, second by Commissioner Bochco. Turn to Ms. Miller for a roll call vote on this item.
One sec. Do you want me to do the de novo first and then the dual permit? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's do this and then we'll go back to the other one.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nadoff.
Aye.
Nadoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Chair Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. Turn it back to Commissioner Hart.
Thank you. Now on the de novo, I move the commission approve coastal development permit application number A-5-SNP-24-0027 pursuant to the staff recommendation. Ask for yes vote.
So motion by Commissioner Hart, second by Commissioner Bochco. And we're looking for a yes vote. Ms. Miller, please call the roll.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nadoff.
Aye.
Nadoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. Chair Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
All right. Looks like that concludes this item.
Nope, we've got two more.
Two more. Oh, let's keep rolling. Sorry.
All right, that's okay. So now we're on the second item. I move the commission approve coastal development permit application number A-5-SNP-24-0028 pursuant to the staff recommendation. I'm asking for a yes vote.
Okay, so a motion by Commissioner Hart, second by Commissioner Bochco. Ms. Miller, I'll turn it to you for roll call vote.
Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nuttall.
Aye.
Nuttall, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Chair Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
Okay, one more to go.
Let's go. Keep it rolling.
On the dual permit, move the commission approve coastal development permit application number 5-24-0576 pursuant to the staff recommendation, and I'm asking for a yes vote.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Hart, second by Commissioner Bochco. One more time.
Commissioner Lowenberg.
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Commissioner Nuttall.
Aye.
Nuttall, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
Yeah.
Aye.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Bochco.
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Harmon.
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Chair Cummings.
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
All right. I think we're done. One more.
One more.
Okay.
13D.
No. I mean,
I know he was-
no, I meant done with that item.
With that item, correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I knew about the
No
next.
more motions on that
I knew
item.
about the next one.
We're
but
good.
We're done with that item.
we-
Okay. Okay, so that moves us on to our last item of the day, item number 13D, application number 5-24-0471, Marvin Braude Bike Trail Repair, and I'll turn it to staff for presentation on this item.
All right, thank you. That does bring us to item 13D. This item will be presented by Dr. Janet Torres, a coastal program analyst in our South Coast District. And I would also just like to note that this will be Janet's first presentation to the commission. If we could pull up the PowerPoint, please, and Janet, please take it away.
Good morning, Commissioners. The next item is 13D for Coastal Development Permit Application by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works to repair and realign a portion of the Marvin Braude Bicycle Trail damaged during winter storms. Next slide, please. The project site is located on Will Rogers State Beach at Santa Monica Canyon Outlet in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood of the city of Los Angeles. Next slide, please. This segment of the Marvin Braude Bicycle Trail was constructed in 2022 pursuant to CDP number 5-19-0365. Following record storms during the winter of 2023, the trail, as it leads up to the Channel Bridge, was undermined by erosion after storm flows in the Santa Monica Canyon Channel. An emergency permit was issued to the Department of Public Works in January of 2023, authorizing the temporary placement of 150 tons of riprap and metal plates on each side of the existing flood channel walls below the beach trail. Subsequent winter storms in 2024 and 2025 further damaged the trail to its current state. Present-day erosion has caused the bridge foundations to be exposed and undermine the trail leading up to the Channel Bridge. The primary issues raised by this project concern coastal hazards, public access, and water quality. Next slide, please. The project proposes to remove the damaged trail debris and temporary protections from the emergency permit, as well as repair and realign the southern loop of the trail, seen on this slide as the red line being realigned to the blue line position. To protect the trail and bridge foundations adjacent to the outlet mouth, The applicant is proposing to drive metal sheet piles on either side of the outlet walls where scour is causing erosion around the existing bridge foundations. Additionally, the applicant proposes grading 1,600 cubic yards of material from the channel, routine maintenance of the channel depth to improve water flow, and reuse of the excavated material as backfill and to bury all exposed portions of the metal sheet piles. Next slide, please. The bridge appears to be subject to continued damage due to its seaward location at the end of the outlet. Our previous CDP included a condition requiring landward relocation in the event of such damage. However, relocation of the specific segment of the trail is complicated by the presence of the public pedestrian undercrossing, which outlets at the western terminus of the bridge and precludes easily moving it landwards. Thus, we've worked closely with the county to develop Special Condition 1, limiting the proposed development to a 10-year authorization period and requiring the county to develop a detailed adaptation plan within 5 years of the approval of this CDP to assess how relocation and consolidation of the two trails using the single, more landward bridge will be accomplished. Special Condition 1 further requires the county to submit a new CDP application to relocate the bridge before the expiration of the development authorization. As conditioned, staff believes the project is designed to provide the county a reasonable amount of time to evaluate alternatives, develop a thorough adaptation plan, and implement a relocation plan that would minimize the perpetuation of this segment of the trail in a hazardous area. Next slide, please. In closing, staff is recommending approval of this application with 13 special conditions. The motion and resolution can be found on page 5 of the staff report. Staff would like to note that an addendum to the staff report was posted, which includes minor edits to improve clarity and revisions to several special conditions. Staff would also note the applicant is in agreement with the staff recommendations and all conditions of the permit. This concludes the staff presentation. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you so much. All right, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak to us on this item?
Yes, we just have one person, Lance Grindle from the LA County Department of Public Works. And then they're being promoted in as a panelist right now. Okay, now you're in as a panelist. You should be able to unmute yourself. Lance Grindle.
I'm sorry, just going through the technical difficulties. I don't have any comments. I'm here to answer questions if there are any. I represent Los Angeles County Public Works.
Great, thank you so much.
And
all right.
No other speakers.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes public comment. Bring it back to the board. Any questions, comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion on this item. Commissioner Harmon.
I think I have the right one. I move that the commission approve Coastal Development Permit 5-24-0471 pursuant to the staff recommendation, and I am asking for a yes vote.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Harmon, second by Commissioner Nodhoff. Ms. Miller, please.
Commissioner Nodhoff.
Aye.
Nodhoff, yes. Commissioner Turnbull Sanders.
Yes.
Turnbull Sanders, yes. Commissioner Uranga.
You're muted. Thumbs up, yes.
Uranga, yes. Commissioner Bochco?
Yes.
Bochco, yes. Commissioner Harmon?
Yes.
Harmon, yes. Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Commissioner Lowenberg?
Yes.
Lowenberg, yes. Chair Cummings?
Aye.
Cummings, yes. The vote is unanimous.
Okay, so just briefly, we are going to go into a closed session after this to get some updates from our legal counsel. Before we do that, though, I just want to thank the Courtyard Marriott for hosting us here. I want to thank Billy and our AV crew for all the amazing work you guys do, making sure we're public and transparent. and I want to thank the public again for joining us here. The next meeting of the Coastal Commission will be April 9th to the 11th in Santa Barbara. So we're gonna go hang out with Harmon. And then May 7th to 9th will be in Half Moon Bay. And so just want to thank you all again and thank the public for being here. And so with that, we'll go into closed session. So I'm going to ask members of the public to please exit the room, and then we'll cut our AV cord, and then we'll have a brief closed session. Is there going to be anything to report out from closed session? Yes. Okay, so we're going to, after closed session, we'll bring it back to provide an update.
And I'd estimate about 15 minutes for closed session.
Sounds perfect. Okay, so we'll be back publicly in 15 minutes. It's about 10:40. Okay, so welcome back to the March 14th meeting of the California Coastal Commission. I'd like to ask our staff if there's anything to report out from closed session.
Thank you, Chair Cummings. Yes, the commission met in closed session and received litigation information and advice on Space Exploration Technologies Corp. versus Coastal Commission. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we are done. Have fun, be safe, stay well, and we'll see you next month.